Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Willcocks.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author podcast.
Wait, what episode number are we?
I was literally on just about to say, what episode is it?
You're way too excited for that.
I just don't know. I just never know what episode it is.
Hello, Achievers, and welcome to episode number 58 of the Next Level Authors podcast that's staying in, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author businesses. My name is Daniel Willcocks, and here with me every week is...
Queen Black.
Queen Black. And why are you a queen, Miss Black?
Because I have my throne, darling.
Tell us about your throne.
Yeah, okay. So for audio listeners, for my birthday, my rather lovely daddy-o decided to buy me a throne for my office. And so I have like this gorgeous Chesterfield chair, which is fucking enormous. And it got delivered this week, and I squealed when it arrived, and I have not stopped squealing. And it is so big and so heavy that I can't actually move it in and out unless I'm like behind the chair. So getting in and out of my desk is a real situation at the moment.
Gymnastic.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna have to buy. My mum's dropping some sliders off, but if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to buy some wheels and then get like a mat under the chair so it doesn't wreck the carpet.
You need to get like a track that has one of those like long levers, so you literally like push, and then you can like crank it back. That'd be amazing.
Well, we also need to talk about the fact that I have a new background.
You do have a new background, a new glorious background. So if people are listening on the
do.
podcast, highly recommend just having a quick look on YouTube, even if that's not your preferred platform of choice. But yeah, tell us about that as well, because that's phenomenal.
Okay, so this leads into how am I this week? So last Friday, we recorded, and then I went off and collected the wood for this project to do a wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling bookcase, which I have now done. And so I'm just going to like manhandle the camera for a second for podcast listeners. So it does go all the way up to the ceiling. And so essentially I primed and painted the podcast. I primed and painted the bookcase.
You regret moving that camera now, don't you?
I really regret moving the camera. Yeah, so I primed and painted the wood. Chloe helped me one morning. I think it was the Sunday morning. She got up at like 6:30 or something ridiculous and was in the garden painting. She was such a trooper. And then we spent the rest of the weekend and the bank holiday Monday putting it up and erecting it, and it's like fastened to the wall and it's super sturdy and stuff, and yeah, it's done. Now the interesting thing is, me and Chloe had like one disagreement. She thinks I should display all my books, right? So this looks like a lot of books, but this is not all my books. If I were to display all of my books, then the whole bookcase would be full, and so I'd have no room for like my skulls or like the lovely pictures that people have done for me. But also I get like achiever pennies by putting the red books behind the bookcase. Like I'm sure there are some red books on the shelf that you can see, but for the vast majority of the books now, I like to like put them behind. Anyway, this is like all tangential, and just suffice to say that I am very definitely feeling like I am in my 30s, because if I were in my 20s, I would have recovered from the absolute monster of a workout painting and building these shelves created. But it took me until quite literally this morning before I felt human. So I have been fucked for most of the week. I literally, it was like I had brain fog, because the lights were on and no one was home. And it was just from the physical exertion, which means I must be really unfit.
So the question is, was it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And you also
100%.
did a sort of progress video on your Instagram as well. reel?
I did a reel, yeah, which has been seen like 2,600 times. I was like, what? How does that? But reels are like super popular or something right now. But yeah, so I did like a mini reel photo video of like the progress of it being made, and I absolutely love it. And I can't wait until I have like a free moment, and the energy, and just so that I can put it in slightly different of a color order. But yeah.
Yeah, I am pretty jealous. That is one thing that I'm looking forward to when I get my new place, is just working out how to display it all, because it sucks at the minute because I've got an array of books out, but I also have like 4 boxes of books, and I miss just having those out, because sometimes you just like, I just want to quickly look at this one and it's not there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
There is something magical about walking into this room and just seeing a wall of books.
It's the workshop.
Like, yeah, but like, I don't know if you get this, but when you go into a bookstore, do you get like energy pennies just from being inside the bookstore? Like, even if you don't buy anything, but I get surrounded. It's like being surrounded by the color and the visuals, like looking at the book covers and just absorbing like what's in genre, what's on trend, what's selling. Like, and okay, this is not a bookstore, but it's a fucking lot of books I've got on display. So yeah, like I kind of get the same sort of energy pennies. And the other lovely thing that has happened is it's opened up my office. So I didn't realize how closed down I was making my office by having the table where it was. But the room now, you walk in and it's just acres of space. And so the room feels 3 times as big, which is ridiculous because I've painted a dark bookcase that takes up an entire wall, and yet still the office feels bigger, which is weird. Yeah. But anyway, yay. I'm going to stop tangentially ranting about my lovely bookcase. I apologize, everyone, that you just had to experience that. But
I think it's fine. I think it's awesome. I definitely think people should check that out. So my week has been... I don't know, I always struggle with this bit, and I don't know why. I think it's partly the point of this podcast is to give us that time to go like, how was the week? Because, you know, this is like the bookmark for our weeks. Like, I've made progress. I've done some ghostwriting. I've been doing lots of things on self-publishing blueprint behind the scenes. I'm currently working on
amazing things. Can I just add?
Yeah, don't even.
Amazing.
Yeah, that'll come up in things I've enjoyed. But yeah, so, you know, I've been doing a lot of waiting for Ingram to populate the paperback and hardback, and I'm currently working with Amazon to try and get all the sales pages together so it's all on that one page, because this always happens to me. 9 times out of 10, the ebook will go live on, like, so people can, you know, search on Amazon for the ebook or just the general name, and the ebook will pop up as one thing, and then the paperback and the hardback will come up as another, and you want those pages obviously to come together so it's easier for people to buy the book. I'm just waiting for that in a minute, and then I'm going to sort of start hardcore promoting and putting things out there. And then what else have I been working on? I've been working with Julie Heiner on The Omens Call anthology and going through all of the sort of finalist submissions for that. Had a really good chat yesterday where we went through and picked. So far we've got a confirmed 9 stories for the anthology, and we've got room for 2 more, and we've got 4 stories that we're currently reviewing, just as a final, like, you know, which ones are going to sit well in the anthology, because it really is an art putting an anthology together, because you have to consider that first story is going to be the one that everyone reads. So that has to be the one that sets the tone of what the anthology is. It has to be one that's written well enough that it pulls people into the rest of the anthology. But it's that balance of like, do you want that to be the best story, or do you want the best story to be 4 stories in after, like, there's like a little bit of a dip in terms of sort of, you get what I mean? There's rise and falls in terms of like how the anthology works, because not every story is sort of born equal. And so we're kind of looking at that and just reviewing bits and pieces. And it's been a really, really fun process working with Julie on that, because she's really enthusiastic and she's got such a good eye for detail and theme. And then one really exciting thing this week that wasn't exciting at the time is I cleared my board of stuff. So I had about 9 projects on there, at least 9, probably 10. And they were just sat there, and they were there so that I wouldn't forget them. Like, most of them I'd like started doing things on, and sort of following our conversation last week where it was like, okay, what am I going to drill down on and focus on, and what's my sort of next step? Oh, you ran out of Starbucks. Come on, baby.
I know.
Go out and get another one. We'll wait. But yeah, I've now pulled that down to like 3.
How have you got rid of things, or have you?
So there's still things I want to do, but a lot of them were like future things that I was laying the seeds for, and I've literally just stopped to the things that I'm laying the seeds for and gone like, no, write it down, put it in a box somewhere, because by the time I actually get to fully investing my energy into them, it might even be a case of other things have changed and that might not be where I'm heading. And that's some other thing. I've done a lot of reading this week because I've been reading through your side characters book as well, which I'll leave it there and I won't say anymore because I know that's a bit of a touchy subject.
Wow. You can't. God, that's so
what I've
mean.
been doing.
Do you think I have to? Yeah, I know, but it's so mean to like bring it up and then not be like, it's like, is it a car crash or am I like, all right, it's not a car crash?
Of course it's not. It's a Sacha Black book.
Yeah, no, but listen, so I'll let you finish your thing and then just remind me to say this thing because I just talked about it on my podcast and it was like a really brutal confession. But yeah, go.
Okay. Well, yeah. So my thing, just rounding that down, was I've been reading through that as well, and like there are a couple of like tiny bits here and there, but
but
anything,
it was a first draft.
But no, in general, like it's a cracking book and it's got a lot of terms and things that I'd never heard of in my life that are very, very useful. I said it to you before. You mentioned a couple of things with side characters months ago. About a couple of like little concepts and things, and that genuinely affected how I had written one of the books that I was working on for a client. So there's really useful stuff in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of it has to bring. But yeah, that's been my week. It's been a long, very, very sort of nose to the grindstone week, but I've done a lot of stuff for me, which I've very much enjoyed.
So that thing that you made that came up, you know how a couple of weeks ago I was like, I'm lost. I'm still lost. And one of the reasons is, you know how I talked about how there was a comment that really knocked my confidence with fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the start of a spiral of me completely losing all my confidence with fiction. And since then, I have realized that I haven't shared, like I used to share like draft things. I used to share like bits of flash fiction that I'd written. I used to share all kinds of stuff. And I haven't shared anything in like 2.5 years of my fiction. And I don't, you know how like when you realize something, usually that takes the power away from the thing that's damaging you or whatever. And it hasn't, even though I acknowledged and I knew that it was a problem. Yeah, like I really have realized that like my fiction confidence is shattered, and that I think is the primary reason why I haven't just pushed through and got the book done, because I could have got the book done by now, like for sure I could have got it done. And yeah, so like that is a real issue and I don't really know how to work through it. But there was something else that came out of it. Can't remember. Never mind. But yeah, basically that was one of my realizations this week, is that I have a problem. Like I don't know how I don't know how to publish fiction anymore.
Okay.
Even though like,
well, that changes this week's question. No, it doesn't.
No, like even though, so like I've got 2 and a bit books that, you know, the bit book being The Scent of Death, which I am working through and is definitely going to be published probably next year now. But yeah, I don't know, like it's a real problem. I feel damaged. And the only reason I realized this is because, and they're going to remain nameless, but somebody posted on Instagram that they were reading Keepers, which is the first book. And I nearly puked in the back of my mouth because I've got such psychological issues over like thinking that it's shit, which I didn't used to think, but I started thinking it after a particular comment. And I was really quite worried about this person reading it. And then I saw another post the next day where they were reading Victor, which is book 2. And basically the comment was something along the lines of like, couldn't put the first book down, had to find out what happened. And I was like, oh yeah, I did actually used to get comments like that. But because I like stopped doing any promotion of fiction because I'd lost all confidence and like belief in it, I forgot that sometimes I can find an audience that does think that about my fiction. And yeah, that just, it was a bit of a light bulb moment of realizing that I have to do some work I have to do some self-work on this because it is a problem now. Because I haven't stopped writing fiction, I've just stopped publishing it.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we've spoken about is that, because when did you publish that first book? It was a few years ago.
Yeah, 2017. Can you hear Chloe? Because if so, I'm going to shut my door and you're going to have to talk.
A tiny bit.
Okay, cool, that's fine.
But yeah, I think one of the big things that we've spoken about is that let me try and actually get words out. So if there's like quite a few years gap between publishing fiction, there's a big gap in growth as an author. So I'm in a kind of similar situation with a lot of my horror stuff was published in 2015, 2016, like my proper horror stuff. And I'm only now just sort of getting back into that realm. And when winter comes, I'm desperate to have published because I feel like that's much more reflective of where I am as an author.
Yeah, but this is my problem. This is my problem because Trey is not reflective of me as an author now. Trey is still reflective.
Because it's part of the series that you've
because it's part
written
of the series.
In that style.
Right, exactly. And this is the problem. And this is why I'm like, I just don't want to publish it. I actually don't want to publish it. And that is my problem. I don't want to publish it because, one, I've lost confidence in that series. And two, I've lost confidence in myself. And three, it's not reflective of who I am now. And that is a problem. But anyway, I'm going to publish it because it's done and I refuse to waste an asset because I hate waste more than I hate anything else. Well, apart from maybe being patronized. But anyway, yeah, so basically I have some issues that I need to deal with, like real confidence issues. Like I am really, and I don't, this isn't just, I'm nervous about publishing because, I still get like that and I publish stuff. This is, I am damaged. I have damaged myself somehow and I need to undamage myself. Anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard to share that. It's a bitch
to admit it, but like you say, admitting it it'll be helpful for people out there who are in a similar situation, but at the same time helpful for you because it is facing that problem head on. Yeah. Okay. What's one thing that you've enjoyed this week?
Oh my God, I've enjoyed so many things this week. It's actually hard to just pick like one or two.
Nice.
But okay, so the first one was a recommendation from Scott. And Scott told me to go onto the BBC iPlayer and watch a TV show called Motherland. That's one word, Motherland. They are about 30-minute episodes, and I swear to God, it is the funniest shit I have seen in so long. It is basically a like reality check for all mothers, like anyone who's a mum, anyone who's like, I suppose a parent, anyone who isn't a parent. Like it's so like it's tragically true. And that's why it's funny, I think. And it was just like all the disaster shit that parents and mums have to deal with. And it was brilliant. So funny. The second one was a film. I haven't quite got to the end yet, but it's called Moxie. So Moxie, and it's on Netflix. And it's like teenage contemporary set in a high school, but it's about sexism, and it is about a girl like discovering that her mum was a bit of a rebel and protested back in the 80s, and then she takes on like her mum's persona and becomes like this rebel, and there's like blatant sexism, racism in the school, and they're like they're just trying to anyway, and it's just and there's a romance in there which is super cute, and like this feminist young lad, and I was just like, I loved the love, and so that was awesome. And then the last thing I want to share, because I do really want to share this one as well, I read a book by Joya Goffney, and she is going to come on my podcast. I'm interviewing her this Sunday, and the book, nice. This is only the ARC copy the publisher sent. So this is not, for people who are watching, this is not the final cover, but that's her name anyway, Joya Goffney. And the book is called Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. And the book is about racism, it's about race, it's about identity, it's about facing your fears, it's about belonging. And every white person needs to read this book. Every person I think every person of color who reads this will feel seen. I think every person who is in some kind of what I'm trying to think of the most appropriate word. So like if you're gay or you're trans or you're, you know, any diverse sector of society, I think you will relate to like elements of the story, because it was fantastic. And yeah, I just think everybody, regardless of like race or sexuality or gender or you know, mental health status, should read it, because it was so raw and true to people's experiences of their identity and what identity means, that yeah, it was fantastic. So yeah, recommend that.
There you go. As you were talking, I've now got three things. I had one thing. I've now got three things. I'm going to hit them two of them very, very quickly. Number one, had a lot of fun on Tuesday evening with my writing group, and we did like a Star Wars themed social because it was May the 4th.
I saw the picture. It was so funny.
Yeah. Some people went all out with like makeup, and we had backgrounds, and we did Star Wars themed games. It was just a lot of fun, and yeah, that was just really, really fun. And the number two was on Friday last week. An old friend of mine that I've not spoken to in probably about 7 or 8 years has started his own photography business, and he reached out basically saying that, do I want to get any shots done? And we had a chat, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm happy to sort of be one of your first guys. And he came here, we did some shots outside, we did some sort of studio style shots, which are going to be going off my website and things soon, and they just come back fantastic.
He even made you actually look attractive in some of them.
I know, like how the hell did you
I don't know.
Also made me very, like, I know I've got a ginger beard, but like very ginger, but like I'm really happy about they came out, because as people who were listening last week know, I'm like looking a lot more at like how I grow that author services side and things. And the last photo shoot I had, which was I think like October maybe last year, was focused very much on me as a horror author. So it's nice to have this stack of shots that are more friendly and more sort of for that purpose of, you know, who I am. So that was fun. And if people want to check him out, he's at Lastman Photography, and it's Lastman. I asked this because it's not Last Man, it's Lastman, which is a reference to an art thing that I've already forgotten. So Lastman Photography. And then the third thing is that finally finished all migration of my websites from Squarespace to WordPress. I'm using Elementor as the web builder, and oh my god, it just the things that it can do, like it is a paid service obviously, but the things it can do, I'm just so excited to like revamp things, put things together, and actually just make things look professional, because I'm a very visually led person, and I really enjoy those elements of design. So I'm having a lot of fun playing around with it and setting things up so that I can kind of like refresh the website and tailor it towards where I want it to go. And yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
And I have to say, it is looking slick, darling.
It's
I am
dope.
very impressed. You are impressive this week.
No. The weekly confessional. So Dan will contact rejected authors for the anthology and narrow down the finalists. I've contacted, what was it? It was like 180 authors and said, sorry, like your story's not in the anthology. And got quite a few nice responses back from people. And then also, as I said, me and Julie spoke on Thursday, and we've narrowed down 9 at least. And we're just working on those last few so we can update people and start editing. Sacha will get in the sound booth and record as much of Villains as possible. Sacha, how did you get on? He says, knowing the answer and feeling really evil.
So I did get in the audio booth, and I recorded one of the longest chapters that is in the book. It was over 20 pages. I recorded the whole thing, and when I stepped out of the booth to click save, my computer froze. And I was like, I am not losing the challenge this week because I have done the work. So I took a video recording of myself in the garage on the workstation of my laptop having frozen, and I lost the whole thing. And I'm I'm not gonna lie, I definitely threw a bit of a tantrum.
I mean, understandably.
Yeah, I mean, I was in there for so long, and I like tidied the garage and everything so that like I could get access, and like I even hoovered in there, you know, so that it was like clean, and you know, I wasn't tracking shit into the audio booth. Anyway, so it's gone. So I am no further forward than I was last week, but I did do the work, so is what it is. I'll have to try again this week. Yeah. Level up?
No, I'm just letting that one hang.
Oh, just fucking move on.
Yeah, level up.
Okay, so Ida says, on Sunday I finished and turned in a short story for a Latinx anthology. Today I got a cover. I still hated editing, but oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I spent months researching a cover artist. I recently took the plunge, emailed one with my idea, and poof, cover. I was expecting months of waiting. Okay, I'm going to have a drink now and go back to editing.
Whoop, whoop. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're getting a bit low on level up, so I might do a call out on the Facebook group and try and get some fresh new ones in. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, well done. In terms of Patreon, no new patrons this week, but for anyone that wants to get involved, that's over at patreon.com/next level authors. And a reminder for patrons who aren't, well, patrons get early access to these episodes, so they'll hear this. But if this is going out on the public feed, last night we did our Patreon live Q&A, May 10th. So gathered with people for an hour. It was amazing. Like the questions were awesome.
Amazing.
Like, oh my God, I just can't even.
I love everyone so much.
It's the cool thing about recording in advance. Like it could be terrible. It won't be, but it could be.
It won't be. It's never terrible.
It's never terrible. And just following on for that, our level up challenge. So you did a call out this week to check in and see how people are doing. And we've had loads of responses from people who are doing amazing things. So we've had Carrie, we've had Laura, who's worried that she's going to be doing the cinnamon challenge. Rianne has finished Tournament of the Elite and is halfway through writing a novella for Project Carradine. Meg has built 1,000 people on a mailing list and is looking to build 5K by the end of the quarter. So that's very, very exciting. Yanni has written 21,000 of her new work in progress. And yeah, the list goes on. We've had Maggie, we've had Lynn, we've had Kate, we've had Ida, we've had Luke, we've had Jackie, we've had Victoria, we've had Renee, we've had Al, we've had Ember, we've had Tracy, we've had Nathan, we have Holly. I'll be honest, I didn't realize how many there were until I started scrolling. And we had Sam as well, and a few more people. So yeah, keep going, guys. You're doing fantastic stuff. I'm loving this challenge.
That was a lot of names.
It was. And all of these people, if they complete the challenge, are in with the shot of winning prizes. It's not too late. If you do want to throw something on the original post and pledge what you're going to complete by the end of June, do get involved, like big or small. It's totally up to you. It's your challenge to complete. Comments. How do you deal with negativity, rejection, and bad reviews? Yeah. Okay. So we had only a couple of comments this week. I haven't checked YouTube though, I'll be honest. So Edwin said, find the biggest rock I can hide under until the shakes have eased. The larger the rock, the bigger, the hungrier, the bigger the hungry predator has to be to pull me off it. Pull it off me. Sorry, I don't know what is wrong with my eyesight this week. I'm a people pleaser. And negative feedback can hit me hard, sometimes to the point I have to walk away until I've processed what it's done to me. The one thing I've gotten better with is, oh my God, I've just had an epiphany that I need to share. The one thing I've gotten better with is editorial feedback on the grounds I asked for it. I searched for an editor I can trust, and I know I need the pressure to make my writing the best it can be. Ida says, in life, after I bitch and moan for a week, I just move on. I don't want to waste time. And I've always believe when one door closes, a window opens, karma and all. In writing, more or less the same. I pitched at an RWA event a couple of years ago and was rejected, not by one, but by 3 people. One actually said my premise was not original enough. So then I said, fuck it, I'm not doing this 100 times. I'll just self-publish it. If I want to publish, I have to keep moving forward. 1 or 3 people's opinions won't make me stop writing. I just have to go around it. So my epiphany that I just had in the middle of that is me realizing that I must have subconsciously asked that question
because of what I was trying to process. So
No.
obviously the question was, how do you deal with negativity, rejection, and bad reviews? And I think that is why I have made the realization that obviously I've like lost all my confidence.
God
yeah,
bless this podcast.
Yeah, like I mean, that must be the only reason. I just obviously needed to intellect over it and like think about it after we'd talked about it. But yeah, mind blown.
One quick additional comment was from Laura on Patreon, who says that she absolutely loved the episode. We are fabulous. Congratulations on your coaching, Dan. Sacha, I'm sorry you had to go through that. The internet is a wonderful and terrible place in equal measure. Not read Smoke and Bone, but I've seen the trailer, so might have to give it a go after your line recommendation. And then there's a fair bit to get through there, so I'm not going to read it all, but just know that you've been heard, Laura.
Oh yeah, I saw that come through an email.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful question time. So the question is, when you feel broken about your fiction. So my question springs from, I was on the Wish I'd Known podcast last night with Jamie and Sarah. And one thing that I found really, really interesting was the questions that they asked. Is like, it's nice when this happens because it feels like you as a person are, coming to a point where your thoughts and opinions are whole. And it was like the questions that they were asking, there was a theme around the answers I was giving. And we kind of have touched on roughly this in episode 22, which was how does your author brand affect your success? But one thing that I'm really curious about is, how did you create your author brand? Because you are the villain queen, you are the rebel author, and you have a very large group full of authors who buy into that idea of being a rebel. And there is, like, I always love origin stories. And I always love trying to work out what it is that helps people get from where they were to where they were. Because Dwayne Johnson wasn't always the Rock. He was just a guy at one point. But now he's like this figure, and he represents much more than what he is. Like, so yeah, I'm just curious in yours and how that started for you.
So I don't think you could have picked a better week to ask this question.
Yes.
Because I listened to Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
I love him. I love him.
I forgot how much I love him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he has any other books, but I'm definitely going to look this week.
Loads.
Has he? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to binge some of those. I've got a couple of audiobook credits, so that's gonna happen this week. One of the things that he talks about in that book is like starting with why. And I genuinely think that one of my life whys is that, I don't know, it's complicated, but like I genuinely feel like the underdog. I have always been the underdog. And the reason for that is because I've never fit inside anybody's box that they wanted me to fit into. And so I suppose one of my ethoses in life is to say, well, fuck the box. I don't need a box to stand on. I can stand without the box or whatever. And like, even when I was recording the Rebel Author this morning, I was even surprised. I said, like, this is so ridiculous, but the Rebel of the Week was talking about how they were told that because they had a reading disability, that they would never be able to read well. And then they were saying that they hated being told what they had to read at school, and so they like rebelled against it. And I was like, oh, I literally never read a single book that I was told to read in school. I don't know how I got the grades I got, like, genuinely, I do not know. But like, I rebelled against it because I didn't want to be dictated to, like, and then I was like surprised that was a thing that I did. And I'm like, the fuck, of course you rebelled against it. And like the only book I ever read was one that I got to do in the International Baccalaureate, because we got to choose the books that we read. And I was like, of course I then read the book. But anyway, one of my, I think I have, it's a great week to ask it, but also if I had another week to intellect on it, I might be able to verbalize it more precisely. But essentially, I'm like, there's a few things that I believe deeply. Nobody has the power to tell you no, right? No one. And I genuinely believe that rules are for breaking, except the ones that are, logically don't kill other people, don't steal, whatever,
Don't touch that electric fence.
Yeah, like I'm not talking about obvious ones, but I'm talking about like, rules that society puts on us, or rules that, bureaucratic institutions have created because that's the way that you do it. I genuinely, in my core, believe that is bullshit, and I embody that, right? And so, and I am getting to the point, but I feel like I live my why. I feel like I live like even the fact that and this is not, I didn't do this because I'm a rebel, I just fell in love with clothes, but I married a woman, like even that is not unexpected, but like that is not what society deems as,
you have
2.4, 2.4 children or whatever. So how did I come up with my branding? I think that self-awareness is one of the things, and I'm terrible at self-awareness. So some of it has come from other people telling me, other people pattern spotting, but also, what was the question? I feel like I'm close to being able to answer it. How did I create my brand? Everything. I think by being everything that I am. I know who I am, and a process. And part of that is really difficult to accept and swallow. Sometimes I just wish that I could merge into a crowd, because I don't always want to be on the outside of the box, but that is who I am. Like I'm always on the outside and on the periphery. I am never the person who is going to wear a twin set and pearls. I'm just not.
I don't think you can go back either.
No, you can't. Once you realize these things about yourself, and also, like, no disrespect to twin set and pearls, the world needs those people as well. I'm just saying that is not who I am. And, like I do sometimes look longingly at people who fit better, and people who fit better, and wish that I could do that, and I can't. And so because I can't, the only thing that is left is to embrace yourself, because when you let that infiltrate every single aspect of you, of your work, of your business, I think that is how branding is built. So like, even my office is purple,
You branded me purple, Sacha.
I know, right? Like my glasses, my hair, although my hair is looking a little pink today, but my glasses, my hair, like I wear rebel clothing. I how did I create my branding? I think I genuinely think the only way to create branding that is easy to implement is to work out what your core value is. And I still go back to this. My 3 core values are to be motivational to other people, but like whip cracking motivation, because that connects to rebellion, as opposed to being a pat on the back. That's very clear. Yeah, like I'm not a pat on the back kind of person. No, but that's it. But they all merge. And like, and I think in order to break the rules, you have to be knowledgeable. So, I want to be knowledgeable because I want to have ways around rules and restrictions that people put in place. So yeah, like those 3, motivational, knowledgeable, and rebellious, like those are the things that I believe more than anything else. And going back to that why, like one of the things that really shook me from that book was that the leaders of the organizations that were super successful all embodied that why. So like Steve Jobs was that they knew why they were like, and it was so funny because they were saying that, Apple is like a rebel company, and they always advertise like with individuals, they don't advertise as a group. And I was like, I completely see why. I am like a hardened Mac Apple person as opposed to a PC person. Like because they were saying in the book, he was saying that PC is like the everyman, you know, and that's not what Apple is. Apple is the rebellious. And I was like, oh, everything makes sense now. But no,
they're the disruptors.
The disruptors, exactly. Yes. And I love disruption. And but he was saying, like, people in these successful companies, like their CEOs embody, they are the why, they live it, they breathe it. And if you don't have that anchor at the top of your organization, and that doesn't matter if we're talking about, you know, $1 billion corporate conglomerate, or we're talking about your one person solo entrepreneur company, you have to embody what you stand for. And when you embody that, and you live it and you breathe it and you allow it to permeate through everything, then people who believe that, people whose values mesh with yours, you know, pull together. And the one thing that he said, which meant more than anything, above anything else, was that it is not me that people are following, right? It's not me. Nobody cares. Like, everybody will forget Sacha. What they are following, no.
Yeah, I know.
What they are following is the symbol, right? It's what I stand for. It's the fact that I stand for, you know, doing it your own way. Fuck you to the big, you know, the bureaucracy. It's that entrepreneurial spirit, the rebellion, the breaking out of what society says you have to do, and embracing that thing that is inside of you, that is beautiful and creative and powerful, right? That's what I stand for, and that is what people follow. It's the symbol, it's the idea of rebellion, and that is branding. And like, sorry, and I know I'm going on, but this is such a powerful question to ask this week, just after I've read that book. But so this is like a tangible tip, right? One, go and read that book. But two, if you are struggling to work out what your branding is, because branding is like this really big philosophical, like it can be this really big philosophical like question. Ask yourself what idea you stand for. What do you stand for? What is an idea that when you see it, you get chills or shivers, or, you know, think about big ideas rather than like what color palette you need. Start with like values and ideas. But yeah. How about you? I don't even know if I even answered the question.
Well, before we go to me, one thing I do want to know is, do you still remember the first time that you used the Rebel Author moniker? Whether that was like starting a Facebook group, or, you know, on a book, or when was the first time
came first?
The podcast was the birth of Rebel Author.
Yep. Can you believe that?
No, I would have thought it was earlier.
No. So what came before that was Villains. So I was the villain queen before I was the Rebel Author. And so it was there. I think it was always there. It's just that I hadn't captured that word.
Yes.
So the villain, the purple, the rebellion, so to speak, the doing things like on the dark side in the shadows, that was always there. So that would have been the Facebook group when I first published.
Yeah, because that has got all updated and
all the branding changed. So
interesting.
So does that? I don't know if that.
No, it works. Like in my head, I'm like, there must have been a point in like 2017 where it was like penned on this thing, but like,
well, you could argue.
It makes. Yeah, go on.
No, go on. It makes
it kind of like proves that point of one of the things I was going to get to, which is how it's an always developing thing. Like it's an amorphous idea that grows and takes on its own life. And you might start off, you know, not standing for one thing, because that core value always stays the same, but presenting yourself in a certain way. But as you try and find the people that follow that idea, it does take on a form of its own, and you can iterate and change it over time.
Yeah, the symbol has never changed.
Yeah.
Like, and the idea has never changed. It's just how I named it. And that's what, like, this is why I'm like, branding is a philosophical question. It is not a wording or color or image issue. Those are tactics for spreading your branding, right? Branding at its core is philosophy, and it's your philosophy. And that is why it's so fucking hard to pin down, because philosophy
Philosophically.
is like this huge thing. But yeah, so in terms, like, if you want to ask me, like, where do I think it started, if I put a finger on it, it was the creation of Sacha Black. Because when I there you go, right? So when I created my blog, I created it under a pen name with the sole purpose of rebelling against my
Sasha's
organization.
real name is Penelope.
Shut the fuck up. Can I just point out my real name is not Penelope? But yeah, and so that was 2012, 2013, something like that. So I reckon that if you want me to pinpoint it, it would be there.
Origin stories.
Yeah.
I felt like this episode should be what is your origin story, but it's not. It's definitely about branding. No, like I love that you bring up Simon Sinek, because That Start With Why is a book that I read in, I want to say 2016, 2017, after sort of falling in love with listening to him on different podcasts, because he's such a communicator.
Oh,
someone who
God.
can take such a complex idea and just make it relatable. And he self-confessed he's the person that if he sat in a room of 12 professionals and he doesn't understand what they're talking about, he's the person to say, I don't get it. That then enables the other 12 professionals to go, yeah, actually, I don't either, rather than fronting and trying to pretend that they do. And he's got a few more books. He's got Leaders Eat Last, which, you know, I love that principle anyway. And The Infinite Game, which is about like just this constantly rolling, like there isn't an end game to business. It's constant development, it's constant change. And I love sort of that concept. But yeah, like, so I feel like I'm very much, I don't know. I don't feel like I've got. I don't know where to go with this, which is annoying because I asked a question. So, I, over the last year or so, particularly since starting this podcast, have really started to understand who I am, or like what the things are that fire me up. And what is really, really weird is that over the last few months, since sort of diving into author services stuff and weirdly hearing myself on old podcasts talking about certain things and thinking about my journey as to how I got here, there's a thread that ties it all together that I've just not been able to see. And I've been talking to a friend recently about like these different pinpoints in my life where I'm like, but I was always doing this, no matter what form it was, no matter what industry it was, like, and that was number one, leadership, and number two, mindset. Like, we had a conversation a few weeks ago about parkour. And for me, like, while everyone was happy jumping and flipping and that, for me, it was the process, it was the philosophy, it was the mindset of what parkour represented that I loved. It was about continual improvement. It was about finding mentors and people that can help you reach that next level of stuff. And like, quite early on, I decided I didn't want to be the office bod that sits in like a corporate office 9 to 5. And then I ended up finding myself in that role. And again, I was talking to this friend and I was like, yeah, that was the only time I think in my life where I've just done the 9 to 5 and, you know, we come home at the end of the day and not worried. And then I sat there and went, nope, that's bullshit. Because even when I was in that job, I was busy with a friend trying to like run this crappy little media blog. I was running an Instagram profile, and I'm going to be fully transparent here. Like, it was when Pokemon X and Y came out, and I ran an Instagram profile that collected like 2,000 followers for people that used to like just look at pictures of my Pokemon. And I used to run competitions, and I'd have people submitting art pieces. And then I started like working on podcasts and writing. And there was always something I've always wanted to take in as much of life as possible. And the only barrier that ever stood between that was me and my mindset. So, you know, even when I had a kid, even when I was in my previous relationship, which obviously would well, I think we could admit that it wouldn't have ended well if it was still going on. Terrible way of putting that, but like, there were so many sort of different blocks and hurdles, and so much of my time was, okay, how do I milk more out of the time that I do have? How do I see this differently? What processes can I put in place, whether that's sleep, food, nutrition, exercise, audiobooks? Like, how can I capitalize on things just to maximize what I'm doing? Like, in my final year of uni, I was head of the Parkour Society, I was on the Martial Arts Society, I was on the Cheerleading Society, I was working 3 jobs, I was doing like the university stuff.
Hang on, just stop. You were a cheerleader?
Oh, have I never said this?
No.
Yeah. I was on the Lincoln Jets for 2 years.
I love this piece of information.
There you go. Like, there's generally there's videos of our competitions on YouTube if people ever want to check that out.
Wow.
But yeah, no, they grouped in because it was mostly women, and then they grouped in a load of the free runners because we could do the flips and the tricks and things. So they were literally like, you don't have to do that much dancing, just help us lift people and do some flips. So I was like, yeah, I'm game for that. So yeah, we toured. We did like Birmingham competitions, Loughborough. Like we won a couple of competitions. Like,
you need to send me some videos.
Okay, I'll see if I can dig one out. But the point is, like, I've always, not always, in my first year of uni, I basically just sat and played video games most of the day outside of university. Occasionally got drunk. Like that was it. So I look at like where I went from there to my third year and kind of the journey that goes on from then. And then obviously I left my full-time job. I went into full-time authorship. And for the first year, I was just ghostwriting. It was just me. I was in an office by myself. I ran the writer share as well. But I had those two things and that was pretty much it. And I feel like, and I might have said this before, that was a good break for me, because after all of the mental stuff of like coming out of a relationship, moving house, like leaving a job that I'd been in for 5 years that was like crazy busy, it was nice just to be by myself and to do that stuff again. And then November last year, I ran the NaNoWriMo bootcamp and took on that leadership role again. And since then, that's kind of begun to grow. My author services have sprung. Like, I've been coaching people. I'm looking at other things I can do. And now I think I'm beginning to find that leadership side again, that kind of like wanting to help people improve and taking the stuff that I've learned and helping that be a thing. And I know over the last year or so, I've definitely started to gain a bit of a reputation as like the productivity guy, which is why I'm working on like the productivity book and things, and I do get a lot done. But it's really weird to try and, like, I don't think I've ever formalized it in a way that you did, where you're like, these are my 3 values. I've never formalized it in that way. It's just been a case of, this is who I am. And in being on this podcast last night, the thread that tied everything together was, number 1, transparency. And number 2, the minute I started just being me was the minute that things started to spring and grow and like stuff started to happen. Because I mean, I've done it myself, where you see someone's advert or you hear about this person who can offer like, you know, newsletter subscribers or ways to make it on YouTube, and you go on their website and it's so slick and professional and like it's like almost corporate in a way, or even sort of the opposite. But then when you see them in person, they're not how they represent themselves. And it's so jarring an experience, because you're like, but I wanted that guy. And so everything that I've done over the past few months has been, or every good thing that's happened over the past like few months has been because I've just let it go and just gone, okay, this is me. Like when I started, and I come back to this story a lot, when I started the Story Studio podcast with Luke in like 2016, it was me fronting. It was me going, this is what an author should be like. Even when we started this podcast, there was an element of me trying to play that character, because I was starting a podcast with Sacha Black, and for me that was like a really like weird hurdle to get over. And over time, like how this podcast represents itself, like I think at the beginning we were much more strict, we were much more like trying to be professional, and like over the year that this has been running, we've let ourselves go more, and I think people connect much more with like the real. And I preach transparency constantly, and now that's started to work its way a bit more into my brand. And just I was listening to a podcast last week, and there were 2 things that stuck out that like I was in my car and I literally started like shouting, and I went like, yes. And number 1, because I've thought of it this way for a while, but I've not heard other people put it this way as well. And there's a big emphasis at the minute on like, oh, I have to sort out my personal brand. What is my personal brand? What is my personal brand? Your personal brand is just your reputation. It's when people think of you, what do they think? So like you say, it's not the colors, it's not the text, it's who are you, it's the idea, it's what do you stand for, it's like your values, it's what people see when they look at you and think, I want to be a part of that idea, that community, because it's going to help improve my life in this way. And the colors and everything else, like you say, their tactics is part of it. And I've definitely worked on mine a lot over the last year in terms of formalizing visually the things that I do. But it's just reputation. Like that's all we used to call it like years and years ago. Do you want to chime in?
Do you want to know the 3 words I think of when I think of you?
Not really. Go on.
No, because you've already said some of them. So productivity, like, or more to the point, ferocious productivity is probably what I should say. Mindset and individualization. Like, those are the three words that I think of when I think of you.
Okay, there we go. It's just formed live on air.
No, because what I was going to say to you is you should ask boot campers and you should ask them before this goes out so that they are unbiased to anything that we've said.
Yeah.
So see if you can do that in the next couple of days before this goes live.
Okay.
Because I think you will be surprised at what they might say.
Yeah, it was a good idea. And the second thing that came from that podcast that really, really resonated with me was it was a line that, so this guy he's Rory Vaden, who's a CEO of some company and does like lots of TED Talks and stuff. And he was talking about personal brand, and he literally said, you are always most powerfully positioned to help the person you once were.
Oh my actual God.
You are always most powerfully positioned to help the person you once were, right? That I was shouting in my car.
Yeah, wow.
Because it's literally all I've been talking about with, like, I write my nonfiction for me. Like, I'm answering the questions of the guy I was 5 years ago. Like, with fiction, I'm writing the things that, like, I want to read. Like, it's always about me. And when it comes to those author services,
it's always about me. Sorry.
No, it is.
No, I know.
Yeah. But when it comes to the stuff that I'm offering, like the coaching and the writing groups and all that kind of stuff, it's like stuff that would have helped 2015 Dan to get to where he wants to get. And to know that the people that are coming into that group are almost avatars of who you are. And so you know the steps to help them subconsciously, although individualization, everyone is different and they take different things from it. But like the core principle being like, that is who I'm doing it for. So if you're ever like, I don't know if I'm experienced enough, I don't know if I'm confident enough to do this, like, just think of who you were 3, 4, 5, like 10, 20 years ago. Are you now in a position where that person back then could look up to you and say, I need help with this? And you can go, yes. But that hit me hard.
I feel a bit rocked by that last one, I have to say.
So to answer the question that I asked, I think I'm still very much, I think it's been starting to build around me anyway, just by being me. And like I said in that podcast last night, everything good that happened started once I sort of shed away pretending to be whatever and just being honest. Like,
yeah,
the fact that at the minute I'm living with my parents to save up money to buy a house, like, is something that probably a lot of people wouldn't admit because it seems like a weird like step backwards. Yeah. But for me, it's not. It's like a massive step forwards.
Yeah, and admitting, like at the top of the show, me admitting I've lost all my confidence with fiction.
Like me admitting I was a cheerleader. Like, that's
which is literally the best piece of information I've heard.
I'll find you a video.
Yeah, please do.
But
also, this is why I keep saying you should be my gay best friend. This is the relationship dynamics are completely around.
Yeah. So I think I'm very much starting now to formalize what those ideas are, what they are that I'm trying to bring together, and just recognize the stuff that I do bring to the table.
And isn't it wonderful that we can show others that you don't have to have all this shit pinned down? You can just start and you can just be you.
Yeah.
And in starting and by being you will evolve. And it will evolve. And if you need guidance, or if you need you want more structure to it, then I think some of the key powerful things that we've said today are, like when you said you realized there was a thread.
Yes. And
I think that is one of the
which you can only see
things
once you've done the things.
I know.
Which is annoying, because I know there'll be people sitting there being like, I really want to start my, for example, like author website, or I really want to just like launch an Instagram profile, but I don't know how to do it. Just start.
Just do it.
Because as you go through, you start to tick off the things you don't like, and you start to tick the things that you do, and you start walking that path. And I don't think, like, no one ever nails it first time. Like, no. Like I genuinely expected Rebel Author to have been like the whole like brand position of what Rebel Author, the wording is, to be much, much earlier than that. But like, it's a perfect example. You started off just writing the book about villains, and then
I
because they're your
started
values.
off rebelling. No,
Yeah.
no. What I did
Well,
was
yeah.
I started off rebelling. And in that rebellion, I then picked out things that were rebellious, like villains. And I published a fucking book going against everything that anyone ever tells you in writing craft, you know, and embodied the fact that villains are the most important character. And like, even, and that's what I mean about pattern spotting. What you need to do is go back through your life and pattern spot, because like the patterns are there, you just need to look for them.
Yeah, and just
this was a powerful question. Like, we need to round it up, because we I think this is over an hour long already.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I am this is powerful. This is a powerful one. Even if nobody else gets anything out of this, I feel like we've had a powerful conversation. So
don't be scared to start. Don't be scared to change. Like, we're on episode 58, and if you go back to episode 1 or 2 of this, I'm like, we're both different people.
Yeah, I also think part of that is about our growing friendship, though, and us knowing more about each other and being more relaxed with each other. Yeah.
So find your gay BFF. Yeah. So the question we're asking you guys this week is how to phrase this.
No, stop. Don't ask the question that we've asked. Ask them about like their thread or their values or their idea. Like,
what are your core 3 values?
Or what idea do they symbolize, or something along those lines.
What do you stand for?
3 words.
You got to stand for everything, or you got to stand.
I don't
for
know.
something,
Did we ask that in the last when we did about the branding before? Is that what we asked?
No, the last question was just how does your author brand affect your success?
Okay.
So yeah. Well, as always, work it out in post.
Yeah.
How are we leveling up our author business?
Right. Well, you go first.
So I am very, very close to being in the position to start promoting self-publishing blueprint. So I'm going to start pushing that next week, with or without the pages colliding. I've got methods to make that happen. And I'm also going to look ahead on the calendar for when my next week off is going to be. Because I want to ensure that I've always got something to pin some time off on. I
am going to try again with the audio.
Sorry.
I'm still better. I'm going to try again with the audio, and I am going to start reading Keepers.
I'm going to add. I'm going to finish CPing your book.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm going to. So one of the excuses I keep making up is that I can't remember what my books are about. So I need to go back and read Keepers and Victor before I start editing Trey. And I want to start editing Trey next week, which means I really need to read the books. So I'm not going to say I'm going to have read the whole thing, just in case I can't for whatever reason, but I want to have started reading the book. So yeah, those are my 2 things.
Beautiful. And to our patrons, again, last night was amazing. Like, thank you all for coming. It was absolutely wicked.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writer Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
Next Level
authors.
I'm just so impressed with my nails.
Like, they are fantabulous.
I did them myself.
You can tell.